Gabriella's purpose in High School Musical was to showcase us who we can be when we are not performing for the status quo, when we don't have to not just perform the status quo in general, but perform the status quo for each other. Everyone enforces the status quo within themselves and how they please others to conform to the status quo. So when you have someone who is not forcing you to fit into a certain mold, how amazing can that be? Gabriella gave a lot of courage to Troy to actually lean into what he actually wants to do. In the first movie, when they were talking on the rooftop, Gabriella says, "Remember in kindergarten how you'd meet a kid and you'd know nothing about them? Then 10 seconds later, you play like your best friends because you didn't have to be anything but yourself? Singing with you felt like that." Troy has always been the basketball guy, but what Gabriella really enjoys about Troy is his authentic moments that really showcase who he is. He is very kind-hearted, and also he likes to sing, and he's allowed to do that. He's allowed to not be boxed in. And Gabriella likes seeing that side of Troy. They provide this comfort to each other to be able to do the things that they feel like they may not be able to do outside of that. That's why we see Troy note Gabriella as someone who has helped to give him the courage to do this, right? Having someone by your side that helps you be brave enough to break the status quo is truly so powerful. Someone who's just genuinely likes you and wants to support you, no matter the case. We won't always have someone to give us the courage, right? That was Troy really had to stop and think what he wanted for himself. Yes, he got this courage from Gabriella, but he had to learn how to function on his own, how to break the status quo and say to everyone what he wants to do, despite the fact that some people are going to judge him. And we have a world of people that just support people for who they are, what they like to do. We don't make people subscribe to these certain boxes. We don't force people to perform what we want them to be like. How powerful is that? Who would you be if you were not forced to conform to the status quo? That is something that Troy is asking himself in High School Musical. That is something everyone can relate to because everyone has felt for a moment that they needed to conform to something. And as you grow that confidence to break free of the status quo and you stand more confident in what you want to do, who you want to be, who you are, then that is so powerful. But at the end of the day, we still live socialized under the status quo. So that can be difficult for some people, especially when you're like Troy, when he broke the status quo. Everyone wanted to police him back to conform. Something to know about Gabriella is she gave people the courage to be playful. That's what it is at the end of the day, right? Because the status quo says you have to perform and fit in XYZ box. But when you're not curious, when you're not playful with life, right? You can't figure out what you want to do, who you want to be, right? If Troy had never gone up on stage and did karaoke with Gabriella, and Gabriella hadn't gotten out of her comfort zone to do it, would they ever discover they kind of like singing? Obviously, Gabriella didn't want to do it in the long run, but Troy did. In High School Musical 3, when it was their last time everyone was going to be all together, Gabriella really rallied everyone together to be able to do the musical, because what other time are we going to be able to spend this time together and also have that playful moment of being able to do this activity together, right? And if they were all conforming to the status quo, would they have all participated in a musical? At the end of High School Musical 3, this is Troy's speech. East High is a place where teachers encourage us to break the status quo and define ourselves as we choose, where a jock can cook up a mean creme brulee and a brainiac can break it down on the dance floor. It's a place where one person, if it's the right person, Gabriella, changes us all. East High is having friends we'll keep for the rest of our lives, and that means we really are all in this together. Once a wildcat, always a wildcat. This is really interesting because this showcase, first of all, it wasn't just Gabriella who was on Troy's side, it was also Miss Darvis, right? Because she also really encouraged Troy to do this. Obviously, he was nervous to do it. He didn't really believe in himself. He was still questioning himself, right? But we saw in High School Musical 3, Miss Darvis actually sent in an application for a Juilliard on behalf of Troy to let Troy know that he still had an opportunity to pursue musicals if he wanted to. When you work hard to force yourself or police other people to stay and conform to the status quo, you miss out on the joy of life. To be curious about things, to just do things for the experience of it all, even if it's not something that you want to do in the long run. You never know until you try and let yourself branch out into those things. And that is what we saw from High School Musical. And that is kind of what we saw Gabriella encourage everyone to do. She was the first person, kind of, right, like the first little domino, right, that eventually set everything off. Whether you're brave enough to get up there and sing karaoke, to get up there and try out for a musical, to dance in the sprinklers, like in High School Musical 2, having those joyful moments and leaving the embarrassment of what you might feel or what people might think if they look at you doing that out of the picture, you can really challenge yourself and you can really just open yourself up to fun experiences. Even if it's not something that you are going to do in the long run, you will never know unless you try. And also, even if, right, something about High School Musical, even if you don't do something in the long run, it doesn't mean that it wasn't worth doing. The real moments in our lives is the moments that we can be authentically ourselves. We're not worried about how we're performing for anyone, and we can really just be in the moment with ourselves or with other people to experience that joy in whatever activity we may be doing. Gabriella really brought this just nice idea that, hey, I support you in whatever you want to do. Let's do it. And having those types of people in our lives can truly be so encouraging. But at the end of the day, we need to be and learn how to break the status quo on our own. But how amazing is it to have someone to encourage you along the way? And that's what Gabriella's character was.